Okay, we are back live with another Between the Pages book chat. And today our guest is sci-fi romance author Kayelle Allen. And she's here to talk about her series, the Antonello Brothers Immortal. I hope I got that right.
Yeah, you
And and I'll turn it over to her now and let her introduce herself. So take it away.
Hi, I'm an author. I've been published since 2004. I have about 20 books out now. And I had a series called the Antonello Brothers, which is about a pair of brothers. And I had 4 books in the series. And there were immortals who were involved in the series themselves. But the guys, the Antonello brothers themselves, were not immortal at all. Didn't know the people they were hanging out with were immortal. And I wanted to write more about the immortal group. So and it's in the same universe. So I just called it the Antonello Brothers Immortal Series. And in this, I'm planning to reveal to the guys that some of the people they know are immortal. I haven't written the scene yet. I just started working on it. So it's almost done, at least that one scene. And, it's always when you don't expect something like that. They didn't want that to happen, but sometimes it just, well, now you got to deal with it. So the first book is out. It just came out yesterday. It's called Surrender Love. And then the next in line, both the next 2 books are on pre-order, Ring of the Dragon and then Forever Love. And then there'll be another one I'm planning, don't have a date yet, Heart of the Immortal King. So Ring of the Dragon, Heart of the Immortal King are both going to be about Pietas, who is the immortal king. And the other books will be more about Luke and Azora, who are 2 of the other immortals. And then I have so many different ones running around the Empire that I would never run out of stories to tell. I've got a lot of things planned for that.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the series. Yeah, I mean, what's it about? The ins and outs of it.
Okay. Well, Surrender Love. Luke is an immortal, and his blood can cure disease, and it can heal people. It can even bring back the dead. So immortals do not tell mortals what they are, because the minute they find out, life is over for the immortals. So it's always been a secret, but they watch out and protect mankind for many reasons, and that's in several of the books. Well, in this case, Azora is a young kin. The kin are a very fierce, rugged, feline race. They look human, but they have cute little cat ears, and they can purr and actually growl and all the other stuff that goes with it. No tail, no, but they do have claws. And Luke meets Azora when his own company is managing the band. He's signing their contract for a 5-year period, and he meets him and just immediately is attracted. But Azora is terrified because in the kin world, if you're gay, you're going to be killed. I mean, they don't have any tolerance at all. So he's always hidden any kind of attraction he might have to anyone. And so here's this human, he thinks, who is immediately coming on to him, and he likes that, but it's at the same time he's like, what do I do, and what if I'm wrong and he isn't what I think he is? And so the whole thing with a new person trying to figure out their sexuality, and for him it's an eye-opening thing. I would say the basis of the book is that Luke's blood can heal Azora, but only Azora's love can heal Luke. It's really a story about 2 people who are kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum. Someone who's been poor and someone who's been filthy rich. And the 2 of them meet, and it's one of those matches that's instant and a forever love.
Oh, I like that. So tell us a little bit about the 2 main characters.
About the characters? Okay, Luke he's 6'5", no little guy at all. And he has dark skin. On our planet, he'd be considered black, but they're Kelpian where he's from. and he has dark eyes. But Luke has a secret. He is what's called a fire eyes, and he wears contact lenses they're liquid, and he puts them on. So his eyes are solid black, shiny, like a bird of prey. But because the way his eyes look normally, they're white, completely white, but he can actually look at something and catch it on fire. He is able to burn anything, literally anything and anyone. And he, for a reason that's revealed in a different book, refuses to ever use that power again, ever. It won't matter what it is, he will never do it again. And so he constantly hides his eyes, but they also, he can never show them to anyone. But hard work, really physical labor, or a whole lot of sex, and his eyes look like normal human eyes. And so he is always having to be careful, wear contact lenses in public. He always carries dark lens glasses with him in case one of them tears and he has to suddenly cover his face, cover his eyes. Azora he's about 5'10", 5'11", something like that. He's got dark hair and the greenest eyes Luke has ever seen. When Luke meets him, the first impression he has is that he's looking into a forest pool, that he's in the forest, everything is calm, and his heart is just still. There's nothing beyond this moment, and he's just struck by, wow, he could totally live with something like that. And near the end of the story, there's a point where Azora is concerned about Luke, and when he looks at him, he realizes he's calm as a forest pool, that he's relaxed and not afraid. And it's the same impression, but from the opposite side, that the two of them have kind of crossed in a sense. The story, Azora had he was 3 or 4 years old, I think, and he had a disease that among the kin is very deadly to the heart. It left him with his heart very weak, and it also destroyed his eyes. He had great vision up to the end of his arm, and after that he really couldn't see much at all. Everything was a huge blur, and there weren't any such things as glasses on the kin homeworld. They really they weren't advanced at all when the humans from the Tarthian Empire came across them. So he had never thought about, could I even get lenses? Could I get something? And when he joined, he wanted to come to Tarth. That's their empire, the Empire's planet. He wanted to come, and so he sold the horse that he'd had since he was a teenager. And he was hoping he would have enough money for a ticket. And these recruiters from the Armada, the Imperial Armada, said, "Hey, kid, you want a chance to go to Tarth for free?" And he was, yes. So they just said, "Sign here." Well, he could sign his name, but he couldn't read anything. So he had no idea what he was signing. And he had agreed to become a Praetorian guard. Well, he had no idea. He couldn't do it physically. He would never pass the physical. And he didn't want to do that. So instead of showing up for all the stuff, he just kind of sneaked away and hoped nobody would notice. And of course, right at the worst possible time, he gets found out. It's always that way, right? He's signing this contract. He's got a 5-year contract. His career is on the go. He's just met Luke, and the bad guys show up at the door to take him and haul him back to his home planet, So that's the way life is. I have this little thing on my PC, 3 words. It says suck, suckier, suckiest. That's the way you do your characters. You put them in some sucky situation, and then you make it a little bit suckier, and then you make it the suckiest it can possibly be, and then you help them get out of it. This other person I know says it's like you chase your character up a tree and then you throw rocks at them.
Yeah.
And that works. It does. It makes for a really good story.
Yeah, and then you have to deal with all the consequences in book 2.
Yes. And then there's the fallout, So, yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the world. It sounds very interesting.
Thank you. there's 22 planets in the Tarthian Empire. And then outside the empire is the world Felidae, which is where the kin are from. And then there's another one. I can't think of the name of it. I will in a minute. And it also has a treaty. What they don't know, the ones that have a treaty, is that because the immortals love to bet and they're always flipping coins for things, the Empress, who is one of the immortals, when she came in and had to decide whether to conquer the world or sign a treaty with it, flipped a coin, and they got whatever, heads or tails that time, and they got the treaty instead of being conquered. So otherwise they would have been a conquered world. So it really irritates her that she has to do that, but her brother, she's the Empress of the Tarthian Empire, but he's king of the immortals. So she has to do what he says, and he never lets her forget that either. They're twins, and she's like 2 minutes younger. And so he always comments about his little sister, you know, or she calls him as her big brother, her older brother. And and they're kind of, you know, twins. They're very much alike, but they also pick at each other the whole time. The banter in this series has been so much fun. In one book, Luke is trying to understand why Pietas would take this technology from the world and not get the scientists who created it. It's great technology, but nobody knows how to fix it or do anything with it. And that Pietas is trying to figure it out. And so his sister says, well, I told him we should do that. But what did he say? Oh, no, if a human can do it, I can do it. Now look where we are. So he had created an EMP and wiped out everything on the planet. But he took the technology he wanted first, because otherwise he'd have wiped that out too. So he took it out, and then he wiped out the stuff because he didn't want them to go to war. And Luke said, okay, wait, you set them back 1,000 years so they wouldn't go to war because you were trying to help them. And he's like, well, yeah. So you set them back 1,000 years. He's like, what is your problem? You completely ruined their world. You took their culture, you ruined everything. And he said, but it stopped a war. And he looks at his sister and goes, why does he not get this? You know, to him, it was a simple solution, not a good solution, but it was one. Yeah. And Pietas tends to be very in the moment, you know, like an instant thing.
Yeah, he doesn't think long term, I'm assuming.
Yeah. The next book in this series is called Ring of the Dragon, and Luke and Pietas had been a hot number for several thousand years. They were a pair. They were actually called Shadow and Light, because Pietas is fair skin and white blonde hair, and Luke is dark. And so they look like opposites. So people said, well, they call them Mountain and Valley and Vengeance and Justice and whatever, but light and shadow stuck. So for all these years, they've been that. And now Luke has suddenly fallen in love with someone, and he wants to bring Azora in and have him as an eternal mate. And there's only been one other couple that has ever done that. They just don't do this. You know, they live forever. Why in the world would they tie themselves to one person? It makes no sense. You know, that have fun, be with them for a few thousand years, and then ditch them and go, try somebody else. That's just the way they are. And Luke is like, no, I know what I want. I'm 12,000 years old. Trust me, I've been there. I have had it all, and I want this one. And so Pietas is determined. He can't let Luke make this mistake. So he's going to go on a quest to get something for Luke that he needs, to prove to him that he's a better choice, that he is the one who should be with Luke, not Azora. And through the story, he has major changes, huge character arc change for Pietas, and comes back a completely changed person. My readers love Pietas. When I first started writing about him, I would get fan mail for Pietas, and I thought he was a bad guy. I really couldn't understand why everybody liked him so much, but I wasn't looking at them in the right light. And once I realized oh, he really is a good guy. It really helped a lot. I stopped writing him into the bad positions that he never should have been in. One book I wrote, oh my gosh, at least 8 or 9 times over and over. I couldn't figure it out. I wanted that book to come out, and I could never make it work. And finally, a friend of mine said, well, you're trying to make Pietas the bad guy. He's not the bad guy. You need to make it be someone else because, and I said, but he's a sociopath. Why would he do that? And she said, have you ever read your own books? She said, he is not a sociopath. Oh my God, he's all over the place with emotions. So she actually got one of my books and sat down with me and went, okay, listen to this. And she read me back some things. She's like, this isn't a sociopath. This isn't a bad guy. He's hiding something, and it's probably whoever the bad guy is. He's trying to do something. I'd actually written that into the story and didn't even realize it. It's one of those quirks where you write a story and there's this little twist that you didn't even realize was there, and suddenly it dawned on me what I could do, and the light started coming on. And that book is the one I'm finishing right now, finally. After forever years, it seems like. So
Okay.
it's almost done.
I think you may have answered the next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And that's, what is the hardest scene or type of scene that you had to write in the book or the series?
Oh my gosh. I don't want anybody to die. Yeah, they're immortal. I want them to all live forever. And so when I have a character that everybody loves and they're mortal and they're going to die, oh, it's the hardest thing in the world for me to do, because they affect everybody. Their death affects every single person. But that's part of what life is saying goodbye, especially for the immortals, is saying goodbye to their mortal friends. So when I have to kill off a character, it just kills me. I really have a hard time with that. That's probably my worst thing to do. Is I tend to make them, I don't want to do what Marvel Universe does and bring them back from the dead every time. You know, the immortals can do that. Mortals can't do that. So I have to be true to that.
Yeah, that is the one thing. I have a few immortal characters too. So yeah, it is kind of fun. You can get to kill them off and then bring them back.
Yeah. Yeah, Pietas has been dead a number of times, but he always shows back up like the bad penny. I didn't mean that. I'm like talking to him like he's here, you know.
Okay.
The desktop on my computer has the model who portrays him for my stuff. It's right there, and I see him every single day.
Okay, so what was your favorite scene or type of scene to write in the book and series?
Oh my gosh, there's one scene I really love in in Surrender Love. Azora can smell emotion. Every emotion has a scent, and he can tell when you're making a decision because there's subtle changes in scent. So he can figure out where you're actually going and what you're going to do before you even do it. And he can tell if you've changed your mind. He will even know why. He's not telepathic, but he might as well be. He's just really good at figuring things. And he's in a situation where it was a dangerous spot for him, and Luke rescues him, and they're waiting for a chance to get out of where they are. So they're sitting actually on the floor. Luke has his coat wrapped around Azora because he was just terrified and he was shaking. So Luke says, oh, you're cold, let me warm you up. And they haven't even had a first date yet. They were supposed to. They all came crashing down because of the incident. So he's sitting there, and they start talking, and Luke tells him about what it was like breaking up with the person before him. And not at all what Luke had planned to tell, but Azora drew him out. And he says, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have told you all that. And he says, no, it's a death. A breakup is like a little death, and it hurts, and you need to be able to release the feelings. And I understand that, you know. Luke says, okay. And so he says, don't worry, I'll be what you need. And Luke is like, what is it you think I need? And he says, a shelter for your heart.
Oh, I like that.
Isn't that sweet?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Luke, I was trying to figure out what should I have a line after that? And I was like, nothing. That's the end of the chapter where he says a shelter for your heart, because everybody goes, oh, don't need anything else. It's perfect, just like it is.
Yeah. Okay. So, Okay, just oh yeah, lost my train of thought there for a minute. It was so sweet. Do you have any quirky characters that steal the scenes from the main characters?
Oh yeah, yeah. One of them is a cat. It's a panther, and he's telepathic. He's sentient. He's leader of a race. There are only 14 of them. They were created beings, and this cat is Pietas's bond mate. I mean, they're always together. There's not a physical relationship of anything like that. It is like a soul connection, and the cat just does not want Pietas to go anywhere without him. Well, I should say without it, because they don't have a gender, and he doesn't like to be called he. And there, I just did it again. You know, it's really difficult. So the cat's name is Tickless, and there's a scene in Ring of the Dragon that I absolutely loved. Pietas has an android servant named Ura, who is always trying to protect him as well. So he's got these two characters in his life that are always looking out for him. And he can't get a minute to himself because they're always like, what do you need? Can I help you? And so he's leaving to go down to this planet to take on this quest. And Ura is giving him all this advice. You shouldn't take this because that's too valuable. It might be stolen. You should try this. I can make an android that looks female, because males are not allowed to walk around by themselves on this planet. He's going through all this, and he's like, I don't need that. I don't need this. I don't need that. Arguing with everything that Ura says. And then the cat comes in and he says, I'm leaving. I'll be back in a couple of days. It shouldn't take me long. And I'm not taking Ura at all. And so the cat's like, I'll go with you. You know, he's very short language. Tick, that's him. Tick, go, promise. Promise is what he calls Pietas, because he's always kept his promises. And they have this little thing they do of keep care guard. Keep care guard. That is what Tickless does. And so Pietas says, no, I appreciate it. You know, he pets him a little bit, you know, like, I really appreciate it, but I'm not taking anyone with me. It just wouldn't work on this planet. And he's like, no, Tick, go, promise, keep care guard. And he keeps arguing with him. And he's finally, between him and the android, he ends up taking a female android with him so that he will do what they said. And he's like, what am I a king of? I'm being ordered around by androids and cats. But every time the cat is in the scene, it's one of those, it's in any book that Pietas is in, just about. And when I first started writing that cat, I didn't think of it as an immortal. But when I wrote this one book called Bringer of Chaos, which is in the Bringer of Chaos series, I realized I could either make the cat a descendant of a cat that was from this planet he was exiled on, or I could make the cat immortal like Pietas. And I thought, well, it would be kind of cool to have an immortal, not pet, but partner that would always be there for him. And so I wrote the cat that way. And he's a terrible scene stealer.
Yeah, well, generally cats are, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so of course you write romance, but are there any other genres that you've ever wanted to try?
Yeah, I have a fantasy book, and I have one contemporary romance. It's a Christmas romance, and it was kind of a one-off. I wrote it for some friends for a Christmas present, and they loved it, and they said, you should publish this. It's so good. And it came out, it was a really big hit when it came out. But it is a one-off for me. I really don't write contemporary, so maybe someday. But right now I'm focusing on the other books. I've also got a nonfiction book called The Tarthian Empire Companion, and it's got a little mini Bible in it about how to write sci-fi, or what I suggest. And then in it is also all the details of my world, with all the characters and the places and the names and everything. It's actually my own. I use it when I'm writing to go back and say, okay, did they have brown hair or blue eyes? Because I can't remember that. It's all in that book. I can look it up like a little character glossary thing.
Yeah.
And I even created a language for the kin that has a soft sound, has a lot of S's, and the spelling has a lot of the letter H to show that there's a breath. Like kin is Kin, but if they go, that's called a so it's KHS because it's got that breath in it as well. And when you hear them speak, if they're angry, they sound like yowling cats on a fence. And if they're being very sweet, they sound very soft and breathy and so on. So when they speak another language, sometimes that will come across like Azora calls Luke. It's more of a long sound. And you can't really show that in a text. So I mentioned it once and just sort of let it go. I hear it, but, I'm sure nobody else does, But yeah, I do write other things.
Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up here, and I'll let you tell everyone where they can find you and your books.
Awesome. Please just look at my website. It's KayelleAllen.com. You'll also see a spot to sign up for my newsletter. When you do, you get a free book right away and a behind the scenes book that goes with it. And it's illustrated. And then sign up for the Citizen's Journey. The Citizen's Journey will take you through a weekly email where you learn sort of behind the scenes secrets about the empire and the characters. And the messages come from the Empress herself. Now, of course, Wi-Fi is pretty expensive between here and Tarth. So it's really just me. But we're pretend. And then if you're really interested after that, you can sign up for the Immortal Journey and you'll get emails from her brother, Pintos. Same thing with the Wi-Fi. And I write these from the character's point of view, and they tell things about different characters and different situations that are not in any of the books. So it's a great way to get inside info.
Oh, actually, that sounds really cool. I like that idea.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to thank you for being here today. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and your books sound awesome.
Thank you.
And Between the Pages, we'll be back next weekend with 2 more authors, so join us then. So bye for now.